Exodus 7:8 through 8:32. Devotional focus verse. And I will sever in that day the land of Goshen, in which my people dwell, that no swarms of flies shall be there, to the end thou mayest know that I am the Lord in the midst of the earth. And I will put a division between my people and thy people. Tomorrow shall this sign be. Exodus 8:22 and 23. A number of years ago, our family was traveling through eastern Oregon near the border of Idaho. Late one afternoon, tired of driving, we pulled into a trailer camp for the night. We opened the car doors and wearily emerged from the car's interior, planning to go back to the trailer and fix some dinner. Suddenly, we began moving quickly. In fact, we found ourselves literally running for the trailer door. The whole area was swarming with flies, buzzing in our faces, swirling around our heads, landing on our arms. There were flies everywhere. We dashed into the shelter of the trailer and quickly shut the door behind us. A few flies made it in with us, but thankfully the hordes were outside. How grateful we were for a division between us and a swarm of insects. Instantly, our thoughts went to the plague of flies, which is recorded in the text for today. What must it have been like for the Egyptians to endure such an outbreak? Our brief incident made us realize how terribly distressing that plague must have been. What an evidence of the caring protection of God for His own, when He decreed that none of the flies would venture into the land of Goshen. Throughout the text, we can see the danger of being opposed to God and the benefits of being on God's side. God used these plagues to show Pharaoh and the Egyptians that He alone is the true God, and the gods they served were false gods. Because Moses and Aaron obeyed God's commandments, He brought protection, guidance, and help to the children of Israel. We can enjoy these same benefits today if we obey God's word and follow His will for our lives. Stubbornness against God will bring judgment. When the Nile River turned to blood, when the frogs and lice infested the Egyptians' homes, and when the hordes of flies swarmed all over them, one would have expected that Pharaoh and his people would have immediately repented, but they did not. Today, too, many people resist God's will in their lives without considering the eternal consequences. A heart that is fully surrendered to God will receive His blessing, and that blessing will include protection from evil. Background information. In this text, Moses and Aaron went before Pharaoh, and God began to work by sending the first 4 of 10 plagues. Pharaoh was not impressed by a lowly shepherd claiming to be sent by a foreign god. He asked for a miracle, so Aaron cast his rod down, and it became a serpent. Through trickery or satanic power, Pharaoh's magicians were able to duplicate this miracle. Yet, when Aaron's rod swallowed up the rods of the magicians, God was showing Pharaoh who was really in control. The plagues that followed Pharaoh's refusal to let the children of Israel go not only devastated Egypt, but also showed to the Egyptians that God of the Hebrews was the true God of heaven, and not the gods of nature which the Egyptians worshipped. The first plague opposed Hapi, the god of the Nile River, who supposedly saw to it that the river overflowed its banks each year just enough to renew the soil, but not enough to flood the villages. The Egyptians were dependent on the Nile as a source of water. God turned it and all other sources of water into blood. Once again, the magicians were able to duplicate the plague. Ironically, every time the magicians duplicated a plague, it just made matters worse for the Egyptians. The second plague ridiculed the frog goddess Heket, who supposedly assisted women in childbirth and promoted fertility. God sent a deluge of frogs, which contaminated the entire land of Egypt. From the mud brick houses of the poor to the most elaborate homes of the wealthy, the frogs permeated every room. When God sent lice as the third plague, the magicians tried to duplicate that also, but they were not able to do so. In Exodus 8:19, the magicians admitted to Pharaoh that this plague was the finger of God, but still Pharaoh's heart was hardened. Moses told Pharaoh the next plague would be a swarm of flies that would cover the land of Egypt. However, this time God would put a division between Goshen, where the children of Israel dwelt, and the rest of Egypt. The word division in Exodus 8:23 comes from the Hebrew word pedut and could also be translated as deliverance. God would protect the children of Israel from the plagues that came upon the Egyptians. Pharaoh tried to compromise and said he would allow the children of Israel to sacrifice to their God, but only if they remained in Egypt. However, God's purpose was deliverance, not just to obtain an opportunity for the Israelites to sacrifice. Conclusion: when we have given our lives to God and have experienced His redemption, we are truly separated from the world and will experience His protection and deliverance.
And the Lord spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, When Pharaoh shall speak unto you, saying, Show a miracle for you, then thou shalt say unto Aaron, Take thy rod, and cast it before Pharaoh, and it shall become a serpent. And Moses and Aaron went in unto Pharaoh, and they did so as the Lord had commanded, and Aaron cast down his rod before Pharaoh, and before his servants, and it became a serpent. Then Pharaoh also called the wise men and the sorcerers, now the magicians of Egypt, they also did in like manner with their enchantments. For they cast down every man his rod, and they became serpents, but Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods. And he hardened Pharaoh's heart, that he hearkened not unto them, as the Lord had said. And the Lord said unto Moses, Pharaoh's heart is hardened, he refuseth to let the people go. Get thee unto Pharaoh in the morning, lo, he goeth out unto the water, and thou shalt stand by the river's brink against he come, and the rod which was turned to a serpent shalt thou take in thine hand. And thou shalt say unto him, The Lord God of the Hebrews hath sent me unto thee, saying, Let my people go, that they may serve me in the wilderness, and, behold, hitherto thou wouldest not hear. Thus saith the Lord, In this thou shalt know that I am the Lord, behold, I will smite with the rod that is in mine hand upon the waters which are in the river, and they shall be turned to blood. And the fish that is in the river shall die, and the river shall stink, and the Egyptians shall loathe to drink of the water of the river. And the Lord spake unto Moses, Say unto Aaron, Take thy rod, and stretch out thine hand upon the waters of Egypt, upon their streams, upon their rivers, and upon their ponds, and upon all their pools of water, that they may become blood, and that there may be blood throughout all the land of Egypt, both in vessels of wood, and in vessels of stone. And Moses and Aaron did so, as the Lord commanded, and he lifted up the rod, and smote the waters that were in the river, in the sight of Pharaoh, and in the sight of his servants, and all the waters that were in the river were turned to blood. And the fish that was in the river died, and the river stank, and the Egyptians could not drink of the water of the river, and there was blood throughout all the land of Egypt. And the magicians of Egypt did so with their enchantments, and Pharaoh's heart was hardened, neither did he hearken unto them, as the Lord had said. And Pharaoh turned and went into his house, neither did he set his heart to this also. And all the Egyptians digged round about the river for water to drink, for they could not drink of the water of the river. And 7 days were fulfilled, after that the Lord had smitten the river. Exodus chapter 8. And the Lord spake unto Moses, Go unto Pharaoh, and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord, Let my people go, that they may serve me. And if thou refuse to let them go, behold, I will smite all thy borders with frogs. And the river shall bring forth frogs abundantly, which shall go up and come into thine house, and into thy bedchamber, and upon thy bed, and into the house of thy servants, and upon thy people, and into thine ovens, and into thy kneading troughs. And the frogs shall come up both on thee, and upon thy people, and upon all thy servants. And the Lord spake unto Moses, say unto Aaron, Stretch forth thine hand with thy rod over the streams, over the rivers, and over the ponds, and cause frogs to come up upon the land of Egypt. And Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up, and covered the land of Egypt. And the magicians did so with their enchantments, and brought up frogs upon the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron, and said, Entreat the Lord, that he may take away the frogs from me, and from my people, and I will let the people go, that they may do sacrifice unto the Lord. And Moses said unto Pharaoh, Glory over me, when shall I entreat for thee, and for thy servants, and for thy people, to destroy the frogs from thee and thy houses, that they may remain in the river only? And he said, Tomorrow. And he said, Be it according to thy word, that thou mayest know that there is none like unto the Lord our God. And the frogs shall depart from thee, and from thy houses, and from thy servants, and from thy people, they shall remain in the river only. And Moses and Aaron went out from Pharaoh, and Moses cried unto the Lord because of the frogs which he had brought against Pharaoh. And the Lord did according to the word of Moses, and the frogs died out of the houses, out of the villages, and out of the fields. And they gathered them together upon heaps, and the land stank. But when Pharaoh saw that there was respite, he hardened his heart, and hearkened not unto them, as the Lord had said. And the Lord said unto Moses, Say unto Aaron, Stretch out thy rod, and smite the dust of the land, that it may become lice throughout all the land of Egypt. And they did so, for Aaron stretched out his hand with his rod, and smote the dust of the earth, and it became lice in man, and in beast, all the dust of the land became lice throughout all the land of Egypt. And the magicians did so with their enchantments to bring forth lice, but they could not, so there were lice upon man, and upon beast. Then the magicians said unto Pharaoh, This is the finger of God, and Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he hearkened not unto them, as the Lord had said. And the Lord said unto Moses, Rise up early in the morning, and stand before Pharaoh, lo, he cometh forth to the water, and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord, Let my people go, that they may serve me. Else, if thou wilt not let my people go, behold, I will send swarms of flies upon thee, and upon thy servants, and upon thy people, and into thy houses, and the houses of the Egyptians shall be full of swarms of flies, and also the ground whereon they are. And I will sever in that day the land of Goshen, in which my people dwell, that no swarms of flies shall be there, to the end thou mayest know that I am the Lord in the midst of the earth. And I will put a division between my people and thy people, tomorrow shall this sign be. And the Lord did so, and there came a grievous swarm of flies into the house of Pharaoh, and into his servants' houses, and into all the land of Egypt, the land was corrupted by reason of the swarm of flies. And Pharaoh called for Moses and for Aaron, and said, Go ye, sacrifice to your God in the land. And Moses said, It is not meet so to do, for we shall sacrifice the abomination of the Egyptians to the Lord our God. Lo, shall we sacrifice the abomination of the Egyptians before their eyes, and will they not stone us? We will go 3 days' journey into the wilderness, and sacrifice to the Lord our God, as he shall command us. And Pharaoh said, I will let you go, that ye may sacrifice to the Lord your God in the wilderness, only ye shall not go very far away, entreat for me. And Moses said, Behold, I go out from thee, and I will entreat the Lord that the swarms of flies may depart from Pharaoh, from his servants, and from his people, tomorrow, but let not Pharaoh deal deceitfully any more in not letting the people go to sacrifice to the Lord. And Moses went out from Pharaoh, and entreated the Lord. And the Lord did according to the word of Moses, and he removed the swarms of flies from Pharaoh, from his servants, and from his people, there remained not one. And Pharaoh hardened his heart at this time also, neither would he let the people go.